Sam again from Rainbow Stitches. I'm super excited. I hope to get this done today. We're gonna quilt some straight lines all through this back quarter Fizz quilt that we sandwiched last time around, and then do the binding, get it in the wash, and then when it comes out we'll go through and make sure everything looks okay. If it doesn't, correct our mistakes, and then get it where it needs to go. So let me just put you on a speed run meditation round. You can watch me quilt this, and then I'll show you how to do binding. I'll be all done with this and it'll be almost ready to give. Alright, I kind of wanted to show you what I'm doing here. I have a walking foot on Sonia just because it'll help me get this sandwich through easier without putting so much strain on the bottom feed dogs. I am going to basically stitch in the ditch, which means follow the line or the seam, whatever you want to call it, between the two blocks. So I'm going to make a straight line all the way down on this side of the quilt, and then when I get halfway or in the middle of the quilt, I'm going to flip it, and from the other end starts quilting down those lines, and that's just so that you don't have so much bulk building up in the throat of your machine. Okay, and then when that's all done, I'll flip it the other way, and I'm going to quilt this line straight across, and of course I'll be cutting this big block in half, and that's fine. But my thread is a variegated, and I can probably show you in this bobbin easier. Kind of like, my thread is kind of this super variegated pastel color palette. I'm going to use that all over. I've already pre-filled 3 bobbins, and that should get me plenty of the way through this. You shouldn't have to backstitch, because when you start sewing, you're actually going to start in the batting, and it's going to catch the backing and the batting. And I suggest, if you have it while you're quilting, use your needle down function, meaning when you stop, it lands in the needle down position. So, if I think of any other tips in between, I'll stop and let you know. But as for now, we'll start this lovely meditation session, and I'll just let you watch me quilt, I guess. Alright, got it all quilted. That was actually way faster than I thought it'd be. So we've got the edge of the quilt top, and then obviously this extra here. I'm going to go around, cut off that extra, and it's going to give us a nice crisp clean line. And then you'll need your binding fabric. You remember the 2.5-inch strips that we cut before all this? We'll get those and then I'll show you how to do binding. So give me just a sec to cut this excess off, get what I need. I'll meet you back here. Alright, so I've got all my binding strips here. Basically what we're going to do is take each one of these strips and we're going to make a chain out of them. And you do that by taking one strip right side up. Oh, it's going to fall. And another strip facing each other, and these both actually have selvage on them still. So we're going to overhang that amount. So you're going to make a 90-degree angle with them. You'll turn it to the side here, and then you're going to feed it in so that you make a line going this way. If you need to draw on your fabric, fine, do it. I feel like I've been doing this long enough, and I mean, I've also been making backing fabrics long enough, but I messed that up last time too, huh? So we are going to zoom straight down this way, and then when we get to the end of that, we'll chain piece by taking this same piece here, putting another piece on it like this, sewing sideways, and we'll just keep a chain going. So here's the start of your strip. You'll need your scissors. You'll go down the strip basically until you start to get where you've chain pieced. You're going to cut about 1/4 of an inch from that stitch line and cut that thread. So then you'll keep going. Just to make sure you don't miss anything. Here's the next one. And your thread. Oof. Alright, so with binding, you don't want to just start sewing. Take this top part and make a triangle with it and then fold it in half. I don't iron my binding either because I super hate ironing. And then I've still got my walking foot on, but you don't exactly want to start ironing this triangle that you just made either. I'll show you why at the end. So you'll start, if I can fit all this under here. Get your needle down. Right, and you're making sure that your binding is folded in half. I want to make sure that I can see this 1/4 inch line right up against the edge of my fabric the whole way, because when we flip it, we want enough slack to be able to pull it to cover the previous stitch line on the other side. So make sure you backstitch. I'll go down a bit. Let me zoom through this and then I'll show you what to do in the corner. Alright, I'm a little over 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/2 an inch from the edge here. So what I'm going to do is take a couple more. I like the back stitch. And then I'm going to lift my foot while the needle is down spin this, take this, I call it binding tape, it's not bias tape. You could get bias tape for binding, you know what I mean. And you'll pull it up so that, and actually let me just, I'm going to cut thread so I can show you. You'll go over far enough so that you're about 1/4 of an inch from the edge, so I probably need to go to this green line. Then you'll flip the fabric up so that it makes this cute shape here. And I always make sure that the line of my binding is in line with the rest of my fabric. Then you'll flip it down and start stitching again. So, I hope you can see that. Make sure they're all in line with each other, and you'll have this cute little triangle left. So I'm going to stitch over into the green, cut my thread, lay this back down into this triangle angle that I've got, and then start stitching from this edge. And I always like to make sure my thread is under my foot. I think my grandma taught me that. And some people don't cut their thread in between turning this. I like to, just so I don't have a whole bunch of extra thread to cut. So we pull up, there we go, there it's in line, fold back down, and that squares off with the top and the side. See how that makes a square here? So now we'll get this back under. And I'll do all the corners like that, and then we'll flip this quilt over, turn the binding on the other side, sew that down, and it'll all be done. I'll show you what the corners are like when we flip it over. Give me just a sec to run through all this. Okay, so I almost forgot to show you this super fun part. We've got the tail from where we started, and that's where, sorry, trying to move that out of the way. I had you make this triangle and then fold it in half, right? What you're gonna do with this tail is leave it kind of folded in half and cut it basically right before your stitching starts. So my stitching starts here. I'm going to cut it right here. So you'll take this tail, tuck it inside of the triangle, like so, making sure all of that stays where it's supposed to. And then run it over real quick, and you can always pin this too. Until you get back to where you started. And don't forget your back stitch. So when you pull that out, and you flip it over, it looks like just another seam. Isn't that nifty? I always like to cut these extra long threads because when you flip them, they end up getting in the way anyways. So basically, we'll take this, roll it over to the other side, and stitch it down on the front, covering this stitch line that we just made. Let me get that started, and I'll just speed run you through it. Okay, so I wanted to show you what I was doing as I get closer to the corner. These random little strings I'm tucking in so that when I fold over, you don't see those strings. And I'm sure you've seen, if my fabric gets tucked up into my foot like this, just lift your foot and lay it back down, because otherwise you're stabbing into folded strange laying fabric, and you don't want that. So what you do is you stitch as close as you can to the edge without getting too close, because otherwise it might rip off. Come down to your stitching line, back stitch, cut your thread, and then I'll show you the next part. Sorry if this is kind of loud, by the way. Lift my foot, turn this around, and I like to cut these little threads as I go, just so that there's less for me to do later. And if there's too many threads here for you to tuck in without them popping out, cut them. Don't fight with them for too long. So we've got this laid back, right? And it creates what's called a mitered corner. So we'll start stitching right where this line ends, basically. So we'll start right where at the tip of my thumbnail. And you're just pulling this over so far that it covers this stitch line from where we stitched it on the back. If you pull too hard, you'll see A, too much of the line on the other side, and B, this won't be as cuddly. So lift your foot if you need to. It's already in the up position, but you can lift it more, at least on my machine. I'm pretty sure you can on others. And my thread came out. Hold on, let me rethread and we'll try this again. Alright, I kind of wanted to give you this pro tip that my grandma taught me. So you've got your thread coming through the needle. In order to apply the pressure to keep it in the needle, put it through the foot. That way it's under the foot pressure as you start sewing. And never ever ever pull on this thread or rethread while your foot is in the down position. So you've got those tension plates that are holding the thread inside your machine, and if you start yanking on this, you're going to mess with those tension plates. That's if while the foot is down. You can yank on it right now while it's up, no problem. Alright, try this again. Keep my needle down. And I like the back stitch here just to triple secure. And then we're gonna finish this off. Again, sorry for the noise. See how my fabric started to bunch up inside my foot here? Just lift while the needle's down, push it back under, and keep going. Alright, then we've got some loose threads here. Clip all those. Binding's all done, which means our quilt's all done. Let's check out the finished product. So that's it. We're all done. Here it is. It's nice and cuddly, but it'll get way better once you wash it and dry it. I know some people don't dry their quilts, but I do because I don't like the smell of any sort of article of clothing or anything else when it air dries, so I dry things. I can try and maybe give you a close-up picture for it. However, just like any other craft, it doesn't have to be perfect. If your stitches aren't right on the line, it's fine. I mean, as long as you're not like drawing a straight line and then suddenly you do one of these, unless it's decorative and you meant to do it and it's then perfect, fine. I would highly recommend, since we've got some really saturated colors in here, there's even some reds, especially with reds, when you put this in the wash, throw probably 2 sheets of, they're called color catchers. You can get them on Amazon, they're at the store, they're right next to like dryer sheets. Throw color catchers in the wash. With this quilt, it's not going to hurt your quilt. The only thing it's going to do is catch that extra red that's going to come out of the fabric when you wash it for the first time. Okay, because otherwise, like the back of this is pretty light colored. It might bleed, and you don't want your cute balloon animal unicorns to have red on them and turn kind of macabre, I think. If you have any questions on how I did this, the link again for this pattern from Fat Quarter Shop is going to be in the description. I got all of my fabrics from Joann Fabrics. If you have any questions, please comment down below. If I missed something, skipped something, breezed through something too quickly for you, please tell me so I can make another video or try and go through it with you in messages, or we'll figure something out in comments. Any hooser, thanks for sticking around for this 3-part, 4-part series, whatever it is now. I appreciate you so much. See you next time.